This is linked partially to what's called the fundamental attribution error. And this is something that everybody does. And it's essentially where we tend to explain faults in others by making uh, personal assumptions about them, character observations about them, things that are intently personal to them, internal to them. However, our own faults, when we make a mistake, we can contribute or explain those mistakes away to outside factors that are out of our control. It's fundamental. It's in the built-in operating system of our brains. No one knows why we do it. Um, be aware of it so that you can stop doing it because it's it gets into the way of developing a good workforce. So I'm going to give two examples. This is so fundamental that we don't really recognize it when it happens. We always recognize it after the fact. So I'm just going to give so many examples that you'll be forced to think about it for the next week. Um, so my first example is one in which I encounter uh, anywhere I go, worldwide. Every place has a self-checkout line now at the grocery store. There tend to be maybe one or two staffed checkers and then a dozen self-checkout kiosks. And so I'm I'm at the store. Uh, I just want to buy some ginger tea. Um, Drinking some now. So I just have this little box of ginger tea. But the only available checkout line is the self-checkout. And there's probably six people. There's a line of six people. So I'm seventh. So I'm getting kind of irritated, um, kind of antsy, and I just want to buy this one box of ginger tea. What is taking so long? The line progresses. The person in front of me goes up to the available self-checkout, and it's just taking them forever. They have five items. They repeatedly scan things over and over again. They have to call an attendant over to make corrections. It's just taking a long time, and my eyes are like burning lasers into the back of their head, and I'm wondering what's taking them so long. In my head, I start to attribute these things. I'm starting to make personal character observations about them. Um, Maybe that person uh, doesn't have the same education that I do, doesn't have the same degree level. And maybe that contributes to their inability to understand technology. So maybe they don't understand self-checkout uh, kiosks. Maybe they don't understand how lasers work and barcodes in the scanning process. Start making these personal character observations. Goes a little bit deeper, maybe. Maybe that person is older. Um, Maybe that person older than me, and I'll start making assumptions about them. Well, older people don't understand technology. Um, or really, this person should have somebody do the checking out for them. This could go, depending on how long this checkout process takes, it could go really deep and bad. And in a minute, we'll get to why that happens. So finally, it's my turn. Customer in front of me is left. I go up to the scanner, and it's covered in dried root beer. Somebody has spilled root beer all over the scanner, and so it's dried. Nobody's cleaned it in probably an hour, and so nothing. I try to scan my ginger tea, and it won't scan, or I scan it and it'll beep twice, and then I need to call the attendant over uh, to make a correction. And so now I want the people behind me. I look behind me and I see eyes boring in on me. What is that guy's problem? uh, I want those people to consider that there's root beer on the scanner. Perhaps the store is not staffed at a level where somebody can come by and clean the scanner. Maybe there's no spray bottle or wipes to clean the scanner, and I can't do anything about it. And so I want people to think about external things that are out of my control to explain why I'm not succeeding in this process. Eventually, I get out with my ginger tea and I scurry away because I feel embarrassed and I don't want the people behind me to get even more angry. So that's the first example. Keep in mind that all of us make assumptions. What defines this fundamental attribution error is where the source of those assumptions come from. In the absence of any information, where are we making these assumptions, or what is the source of the assumptions? If you're making the assumption about somebody else, you're generally basing those assumptions on just character attributes, internal things that are out of that person's control. If somebody is making an assumption about you, you expect them to consider attributes out of your control. Um, I, like I mentioned, I don't clean the supermarket scanners. Um, Whereas I assume that the person in front of me simply doesn't know how to do it, internal to them. One more example. I'm going to use Amber in this example from the office up there, School of Healthcare Administration Leadership. You've probably dealt with her frequently over the last year. I did not ask her permission to use her in this example, but I'll tell her tomorrow. She probably won't mind. But this is just an example. This is not real life. Okay, so let's say um, I'm late for a meeting. It's a 9 a.m. meeting. I show up at 9:10, walk into the room, everybody's staring at me. And as I go and find my chair, I want people to think, well, he must have been stuck in traffic, these external factors. Well, maybe he was at a previous appointment and it went late. Um, oh, I remember getting an email last night that there was a last minute room switch. Maybe Kevin um, got that email in the morning and didn't know about it ahead of time. You experiencing this want external factors to be considered. So then it's 9:15 and then Amber shows up to the meeting. So she's 15 minutes late. And so everybody, including me, looks at her and we start thinking, why is Amber late? Well, maybe she's unreliable. We're not considering any of these things that we wanted for ourselves, these external factors. It's all internal. Unreliable. She's younger than me at least. And if I know things about young people, it's that they like to play video games. So maybe she was playing a video game uh this morning and it just ran over and she lost track of time. And then this descends into that dark well that I was just discussing, the ageism, racism, sexism. We start making assumptions about people and their errors that are outside of their control. It's important to catch yourself when you do this, even if it's not down in this deep, dark area. If it's just that the printer is jammed, uh, who who caused it? Catch yourself right there. It's not necessarily a who problem. When problems occur in a group, it's easiest to blame somebody. Blame is the easiest thing to do. But as an actual source of workplace problems, an individual person is probably not it. So if you're going to spend resources to solve a workplace problem, whether it's money, uh, research, additional meetings, whatever, there's resources being expended to fix a problem. Those resources are better spent finding the process issue first. That's probably where you're going to find the problem. Fix problems, not blame. Workplace problems are non-judgmental. That printer doesn't care who you are. It'll jam every 500 copy or 500 printout. And this is a quote from Bowman and Deal, who read a management textbook called Reframing Organizations. The first and most common fallacy is blaming people, targeting individuals while ignoring larger system failures. Um, that oversimplifies the problem and it does little to prevent its recurrence. So, again, if you have a problem in the workplace uh, and it involves other people, think about the process first before you go to the person. Now, the fundamental attribution error is not an excuse, and it's not a way to avoid accountability. Sometimes people are not matched to the position they're in. Uh, that happens, in which case, sure, it's okay to take that person out of that position, move them to where they're more appropriate. Um, in the hiring process, if you're looking for a certain set of skills, you don't need to perform the fundamental attribution error if they don't have the skills that are needed. That's It's not an excuse or a way to avoid accountability. Certainly, if somebody is having frequent problems, you can approach them and say, I've noticed these problems. Is there something going on in the universe that's contributing to these? And right there, you've opened the door to these outside factors, and you're no longer, uh, or you're letting the person know that you're not seeking internal things that they can't control. You're looking for the things that they maybe can, and maybe it's an opportunity for you to help them. So that is the fundamental attribution error. This week, I would like you to think about when that has happened to you this week, an example of when you committed the fundamental attribution error, and then when somebody has applied it to you. Maybe you did something and it was out of your control, but somebody assumed it was something that was internal or inherent to you. So that's this week. I will